season finale of X-Men 97 was a banger. We're going to get into what it means for season 2. Most people have been tuning out, Sterling, of Disney Plus. They've lost all faith in Disney, and why not? They put out so much garbage the last few years. They've literally destroyed Lucasfilm's Star Wars, Willow, Indiana Jones branding. Lucasfilm is in tatters. And then you've got Marvel, Ant-Man Quantumania, and
the Marvels.
The Marvels, and the only thing that's really done good is Guardians of the Galaxy. So not much faith in Disney Plus. And then this animated show, X-Men 97, comes on, and we've covered the first batch of episodes leading into the finale, which is Tolerance's Extinction,
Part 3.
Part 3. There's a 3-parter. And we've talked about how much we really like it. It's not getting great ratings, but that's not surprising because most people have given up on Disney Plus. So this show is going to have good word of mouth, which I think it will.
I think you've got two issues, though. I think.
What are they?
One, they've made, I'd say, half their fan base angry, if not more.
Already.
So a lot of the people that this would appeal to have tuned out. And the other issue is this appeals to 90s kids who are now in their 30s and 40s. I love animation. I always have. But the reality is, in our generation, animation was not cool. I mean, when you when you got older and you watched cartoons, you didn't tell anybody about it. Like, you kept that secret. It's not the same. Like, kids now, or adults now in their 20s.
Anime.
Yeah. They and we had some of the best anime around when we grew up, but it wasn't cool.
Right.
And now,
much more accepted now.
Yeah, someone in their 20s, early 30s watching cartoons, there's nothing wrong with that. But, for the demographic this appeals to, a lot of those kids, they're middle-aged men now, and they're not going to watch cartoons.
So we're going to cover a few things as to why this series first season was good and some of the Easter eggs that you may have missed. And then we're going to come back to what they need to do to get to take this off and in terms of like get more eyeballs on it that clearly they don't have right now. So we'll come back to that. But let's start with what we saw in the final episode. So for people that have read the comics, they most likely you recognize everything, right? Most everything you see on screen you recognize. But a lot of people that would watch it, they're going to miss things. And so as we started off, there was basically Professor Xavier, Charles Xavier, is manipulating Magneto's mind to try to have him stop the electromagnetic pulse that's basically destroying the Earth, powering everything down. They're in darkness. And while he's doing that, you have Bastion, who is kind of playing a little bit of a sympathetic character. He wants to wipe out the X-Men, wipe out the mutants, and he holds a grudge against them, right? And so let's talk about the very first part of it, what jumped out at you is they're assembling the president and they're trying to do a nuclear strike on Asteroid M. And that kind of pits them against the X-Men, so to speak, because you've got Iron Man and Captain America in the room with the president in the command center. So are they setting that up, you think?
I mean, they could. I thought one of the coolest things about it was you got to see, like, when these big events happen, you always kind of wonder, well, what are the other heroes doing? And you got to see that. You got to see the cameos where you had Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, Spider-Man. I mean,
let's get into one of our first main Easter eggs. Here's some of the cameos that you may have missed. So we had Captain America and Iron Man. Everybody probably recognized them. We had not T'Challa, because this takes place in the 90s.
Yeah,
so this is T'Chaka, which is T'Challa's father, as Black Panther. We had Daredevil, was in a few scenes.
He's with Cloak and Dagger. Yeah, they're fighting Cenobites.
Cloak and Dagger and Daredevil.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah, Doctor Strange in the operating room. That was kind of weird. He was wasn't he wearing his red cloak?
Yeah, using his magic.
Yeah. And then you had Silver Samurai,
Omega Red, with Dawnstar, I believe.
Dawnstar. And then we had Peter Parker and MJ.
Who found Mary Jane, apparently, because it takes place in that 90s.
Right.
90s years.
So, while we're talking about the cameos, did you spot anything that we did mention or that we missed? The first few minutes of this episode, as Professor Charles Xavier is getting into Magneto's mind and he's trying to convince him of his humanity to try to save the planet, was there anything that you thought that maybe should have been covered in that? Were there cameos that we missed? What did you like about the cameos? Let us know your thoughts. Leave a comment. And if you want to bash something we're saying, you're welcome to do it and allow me to come right back at you. But while you're doing that, also hit subscribe so we can continue to grow our channel. So back to the episode, he eventually convinces Magnus or Magneto of his humanity and what they knew of each other when they were young and they first met, and he releases the hold, thus, saving the planet, which kind of splits humans into two factions, right? The group that saw the mutants as evil, that probably are still going to see them as evil, and then another group that just realizes they got saved. And so that's going to set up an interesting dynamic in season 2 that we're going to get into who's left back on Earth, because when the asteroid is destroyed, I got a thought that maybe you can explain for me and for the audience. And my thought was Bastion ripped off Cable's arm and integrated it into his bodysuit, which has his time travel ability in it.
I actually didn't think about that, but that is, that's
so when Bastion, Cyclops tries to save Bastion, right? And Bastion, he gets ripped into the wormhole, right? Or the whatever it was that when the asteroid was destroyed. And so that's what I think created the time loop, was the arm, because that's how Cable travels in time, right?
Yeah, I mean,
just a thought. If anybody disagrees, let me know.
It's possible. In the last series, Apocalypse was messing around with the core of time. So like that was one of the main. I think that was at the end of season 4 of the original series. So I mean, Apocalypse could be doing something with time as well.
We also heard the name of a person who's going to play a part in the future of the series, which was, they mentioned Graydon Creed, which is the founder of Friends of Humanity. Yeah. Do you want to tell the audience who Graydon Creed is? The son of
Sabretooth, yeah,
and Mystique.
Mystique, that's right. Yeah.
So
he was in the original series as well. He is, yeah.
So he's going to be leading the Friends of Humanity, and so
he was in the original series,
and they mentioned him as a politician. So you got to think that name drop is going to play a part in season 2, or even season 3. So as this wormhole opens up and all these characters disappear into certain different parts of time, let's first get into who was left on Earth. Forge, Cable, and then Bishop shows up.
Bishop comes back, yeah.
So they have a wall of characters that they're like just dead, missing. Yeah. Like they're trying to find them, right?
Well, everybody was stuck in the past, like 3,000 years ago when they met Apocalypse.
Yeah. So, so they're going to be tasked with trying to patch things up on Earth, and also while finding their friends. And then, as we see this wormhole that was created, we first show up in ancient Egypt. So it says 3,000 years ago, Egypt. So pretty clear where we are.
Yeah,
and
that's where most of everybody is.
Yeah. So you've got Magneto, Charles, Xavier, Cyclops, Jean Grey.
Cyclops and Jean are in the future, though.
So they went to the future. Magneto, X-Men, Nightcrawler.
Everybody was in the past except Cyclops and Jean, and then Wolverine, Storm, and Morph were not we
don't know where they are. So I'm going to go back to Wolverine in just a second about where we think that Wolverine's going to end up, because we know that his adamantium was basically ripped out of him, and so we'll kind of see.
I don't know. I mean that's how it happened in the comics, but I mean you didn't really. I'm not sure how they're going to do that in the show. I'm not positive.
So in Egypt we had Beast, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Xavier, and Magneto.
Yeah.
And they start, fighting, and then they see a character that says that they are in Sabanur, which
Apocalypse.
That's a young Apocalypse.
Yeah. Right.
So he hasn't become evil or yet, and he's in Egypt. And we then saw a temple that looks like he's going to be fighting somebody who, if you go back to the comics, that looks like that's going to be Ramatut, right? Isn't that a version of Kang? I think it is. I don't know if they'll use that angle.
I don't know how they'll do that though.
Yeah. So sure. What they do with the young Apocalypse, how that will impact the future with him being evil or not evil, that's going to be interesting to see. And then we'll see how that plays into the overall story, because we're going to mention Apocalypse shows back up in another part of the ending that got me excited going into season 2.
The present day. Yeah.
But present day. But first, we went to the future. So they ended up in 3060 AD, and it was, as you said, to correct me, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and they meet Mother Ascani. We're going to give a spoiler here. If you don't want to know who Mother Ascani is, you got 5 seconds, because Mother Ascani, we know from the comics, is who?
That's Cyclops and Jean Grey's daughter.
So it's Rachel Summers.
Rachel Summers, I believe.
Similar powers to Jean Grey, telekinetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's supposed to be more powerful.
Yeah.
If I can't remember, because they have a few kids. She's either the one of them can steal other mutants' powers, but I'm not sure if that's her. Or, I can't remember.
So
they have two daughters, Rachel Summers, and then I forgot the other one.
And to back up on Jean Grey for a second, one of the things that we saw earlier in the episode is they're fighting Bastion. Was we saw the Phoenix.
Yeah,
Jean Grey,
because you thought maybe Cable killed her, but then the Phoenix.
Yeah, which you predicted the Phoenix rose and played a part in the ultimate.
She fries Mr. Sinister, makes him look like
an old man, yeah. and then he ends up seeing how his face looks.
Which I expect Apocalypse will probably put him back in prime form too, because
right.
Mr. Sinister usually works under Apocalypse, so I expect to see him.
We haven't seen the last of Mr. Sinister, and so a call back to the Phoenix, which showed up early in their episode. But another thing that we saw in the future was as they met Mother Ascani, they see a little boy and it's Nathan.
Yep.
So now they have a chance to kind of redeem themselves, right? We're seeing how Nathan ends up becoming the Cable that he is, right? The fighter that he is under Mother Ascani.
Yep.
And but now you've got Jean and Scott getting a chance to be parents, which is kind of an interesting dynamic. And then let's go back to what we talked about earlier with Wolverine. So we don't know where Wolverine is. And obviously, he's not dead, just like we're going to talk about Gambit in a second. Storm and Morph and Wolverine, we don't know where they end up. And I think that's going to be an interesting part of the story because of different journeys they're going to take.
Well, in the original series, there's an alternate timeline where Wolverine and Storm fall in love. And it's like in the future because they're the only.
Well, they could be in the same time loop.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's maybe supposed to show how that happened. There's so many things they could do with it once they start doing time travel. So I'm not sure if that's supposed to be like the event that led to that timeline. I don't know, but
well, we may see the bone claw stuff that you don't like since his adamantium has been damaged.
Yeah, but I mean that's something that they'll. There's different ways they can handle that. But if Apocalypse is back, I mean, he is the one that gave Wolverine his adamantium back.
Well, if he's in a different time loop, which we believe he will be, he's going to have some people to fight.
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting who they bring up there for him to fight. So, guesses, maybe Lady Deathstrike. And so then let's get to the end. So we go to present day, and we hear Apocalypse is basically on Genosha, and Apocalypse says so much pain, and he picks up
so much pain, so much death, and he picks up the Queen card that Gambit had.
Gambit's card. So
yeah,
which
I said that was a possibility as he could come back.
Right.
And that's definitely the story they're going to go with.
So
and you kind of saw that in the foreshadowing when Professor X saw he saw Gambit die, and he saw that skull on his face, and
right.
That to me that was a little bit of foreshadowing that was going to happen.
So how does Gambit come back? You mentioned earlier
Apocalypse resurrects him. He has
so he's one of the Horsemen.
Yeah, he'll be the Horseman of Death. Most likely,
okay.
Which was in an alternate timeline in the comics. It was never in the main timeline, but, with how they're doing things.
Yeah, so, there's no doubt season 2, we're going to get Apocalypse.
Yep.
And I'm excited for it because unlike the live-action movie, this one looks like it's going to be cool.
Yeah.
This one looks like
he was great in the original series. I think
really going to be cool.
And I expected we'd get Apocalypse. I thought maybe we'd get Onslaught first, but it looks like Onslaught will probably be later. I expect we'll get Onslaught as well. But
so as we wrap up, we covered the cameos, the things you may have missed. We talked about some spoilery stuff that maybe if you didn't read all the comics and you didn't know who Mother Ascani is or who Wolverine Logan might fight in an alternate timeline, some of the things that maybe weren't shown in the episode. What did we miss? What did you like about it? I give this season a 9 out of 10. I think it's the best thing Disney Plus has put out. I think, like I said earlier, you order Disney Plus, you binge this show, and then you get rid of Disney Plus. Because, look, there's no reason to believe that they're going to do anything else right. Disney is Marvel. So other than I will go to the theater to see Deadpool and Wolverine, and we'll cover that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good start. And so, final thoughts. What should they do with this to get more eyeballs on it? Should they release it on ABC or one of their other, like cable? What should they do to get more people to see this?
What's a different time? I mean, like Saturday morning cartoons, I don't know if that's really a thing anymore. So
they're not going to license to Netflix or something like that. So
I think like this is their first great thing they've had from Marvel in years. Honestly, I think some people like Loki season 2, but
I don't know. I don't think they know what to do with it. There's been no marketing campaign. There's been nothing on social media.
I think you need to market it when Wolverine and Deadpool comes out. I think you need to start throwing that on the commercials. Like in the theater, they should have a trailer for this when that movie comes out. Even though it's at that time it had been out a while, but you need to mention this with Deadpool and Wolverine for sure.
They've got to get creative with the marketing of it.
I think you need to expand the property into other things. I'd make a video game off it. I would do the action figures. I've heard are actually selling really well. So the merchandise is actually, I think, really popular.
So the action figures, go check these out. This is what Sterling is referencing.
Yeah.
They're Wave 1 and Wave 2 are out. The X-Men 97, they're really good figures, and there's 6 in each wave. And so these are really, really cool things to get to check out. I think they got to get creative. I think they got to, quit focusing on, some of the initiatives that the marketing group at Disney has been focusing on that hasn't led to anything productive, and they got to find a way to create buzz, because this is the type of show that you could see stay on the charts for a long time, repeat viewings and people watching it to catch up. So, and then I think they have to use this to lead into the animated Spider-Man series. I think
I
that's
think
the
they
next
need to do
step for them.
I think they need to do a whole animated universe. I would lean heavy on that. They need a string of hits. I mean, that's the problem, is they've had 4 years of just bad content. And I think this is really, in my opinion, the first great thing they've had in a while.
And stick to the story. No identity politics, no agendas. Stay faithful to the lore. The comics, the way they were written long ago, are good enough. The quality is there. You don't have to bring in any agendas. The story's there. Stick to it. Have the animation look the way it's looked this season, which was great.
Yeah. And
stick to the story. And if you do that, I think that this will catch on, season 2, season 3. And we'll be here to cover it. So, we enjoyed season 1. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment, smash the like button, hit the notifications bell for future content. And most of all, subscribe so we can continue to grow our channel. And TCB.